Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we build products in public. Each week, we will give you an honest peek into our lives as we share our struggles, our wins, and everything in between. I'm Brian. I'm somewhere outside of Atlanta, and I am feeling conflicted.
I'm Benedicta. Today is December 7th, and I'm feeling trusting.
And I'm Benedict. This is episode number 119, and I'm feeling a little bit sad.
Well,
Why are you sad?
I have to confess that I'm the cause of the sadness, and the cause of what I'm so conflicted about, which is that I have decided I'm going to take a 3-month break from the show, and which I told you guys, and y'all are like, I'm not surprised. Seems like I'm ready for a break. But yeah, I'm super conflicted about it. I mean, we've done 119 episodes of this, and it just, it feels sad to feel like, what I need is a break from it, from doing it. I've valued it so much. I've just so appreciated it. And getting to know you, Benedict. I mean, we talk, every single week for the past 2 years plus. And yeah, so that's why I'm so conflicted about it, is that I enjoy it so much, have enjoyed it so much, but here's what I feel like is that I'm really enjoying GitLab. That is a small part of it. The other bigger parts of it is that I just have not been giving energy or thought to building a SaaS. Like if I look at the things that are kind of competing for my attention and time, which is the one that feels like it's kind of a drain right now, and it's like just continuing to slog away on trying to bootstrap a SaaS company towards some meaningful amount of MRR. I'm really, really tired of trying to do that for now. So
yeah.
So you're taking a break from the SaaS, and that's why you want to take a break from the podcast, because you feel like those two are linked?
I feel like they're highly linked. I don't. Disagree, but if you want, but like, I think I just feel like, oh man, I don't really have anything to share. I don't have anything to, I haven't done anything on it. I haven't even thought about it hardly. The free time that I do get, I've been designing a handful of new games, that I'm really liking. And so it feels like, what do I want to spend my free time on if I'm not, pursuing other hobbies? I don't want to pull my laptop back up and write code. I actually want to go sit down at the dinner table and sketch out some ideas and build a prototype for a little board game. That's what I've been doing.
Yeah, go ahead.
And there are some exciting stuff happening with the board game, the one that is already further along than Sketches.
Yeah. So the contest that we entered it into a while ago, and we made the first cut, then got into the top 10, and then the winners were supposed to be announced last Wednesday, and then at the last minute they were like, "Hey, we need another week." I was like, "Oh, okay, fine." Anyway, so the top 3, the winners, will be announced, tomorrow, but listener, that's either today or at some point in the past for you. So yeah, the top 3 will have, out of the 10 will have an option, to be published by this company. And so next week, so I was saying, I was like, next week I'll have an interesting update on this, one way or the other. It'll either be good news or bad. But yeah, that's pretty stinking exciting. I wasn't on the show last week, but just a few days before, regular recording time, we had a live pitch with the publisher, to like do a playthrough of the game. They asked us a bunch of questions. It went great. So I feel I feel somewhat optimistic about that specifically, but more generally, like, oh, hey, yeah, okay, fine. If we come in 6th place on this, then sweet. We'll put together a little, a one-pager and pitch it to some other publishers, like outside of any sort of contest thing, and with a little bit of credential behind it now. So, so that all feels really exciting. Yeah, I'm rambling at this point, just
but
because
this means that you will be back next week at least for kind of your last update before the break. And that also means, I guess, if anybody has any kind of final questions for Brian before he takes his break, they need to reach out to us in some way.
Yes, yeah. So I think that next week makes a whole lot of sense to be the last week for me for, some X number of months, because I'll have an update on the board game. I'm chatting with a couple of folks in Mega Maker to say, hey, I don't have the energy or the mental space to set aside to continue to build this thing, but it has legit traction. Is there an arrangement that we can make that you would be excited about? 50-50 partnership doesn't really make sense yet. Like what would be exciting to you? So hopefully I'll have an update there. And we'll be like, gosh, what will that be? We'll be like 2 weeks away from being back in Colorado, at the end of this, half year on the road, adventure. So there'll be like 3 different, I think, storylines that I can close the loop on, next week. So I think that will make the most sense.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds, as I said, it's a little bit sad because like we recorded almost 120 episodes together. A break here and there, but
right.
Yeah, it's sad to see you go, but I hope it's just a break and not forever.
Yeah.
But the other interesting question is, I'm not saying, like, I'm not asking this to convince you to stay on and not take the break, because I feel like it's probably a good idea to take a break, and I just like, it's not easy to always show up every week and have a good update that's kind of interesting and worthwhile of sharing. I think we all three struggle sometimes. Yeah, performance issues of like looking back at the last week and being like, yeah, I did a lot of stuff, but nothing super exciting, and I'm not entirely sure what to talk about. So I get it. But the other interesting question is this podcast about building a SaaS, or is it just about doing stuff?
I think the intro is building products in public, because I've been asking myself the same thing since I haven't spent so much energy on POW, which is my SaaS. Kind of similar to Brian, put that on the back burner. But still building stuff in public, though. So I feel like I fit your original description in some capacity.
I honestly, I don't quite remember what the original intro was. We changed it. We adjusted it a couple of times. But did it start out as like... It started with building a SaaS, right?
No. It started as... to listen along as we... try to build and grow a SaaS while consulting on the side or something. Like that was the initial conceit, was like, can you be self-employed and find time to build a SaaS, find time to bootstrap a SaaS? Like that was even the initial thing. And then it changed when UserList got into Tiny Seed, and then changed Yeah, I mean, so it is changed. It has definitely changed over time. I think it's a really interesting question. Like, is this show about building a SaaS? And I think we can pretty definitively say no. You know, it's
At this stage, yeah.
yeah, yeah. That might have been that was definitely like maybe the initial idea, but over time it has been, how do you steadily make progress towards some difficult to achieve goal? So I feel like for me personally, like I have yet to actually arrive at the goal that I had set, which is interesting to say, because I feel like where I'm like my current position is very, very, very nice. Like I definitely enjoy this current feeling of salaried employment, not like consulting is left behind, freeing myself from the like continual stress of 10K MRR, 10K MRR, like that thing in the back of my head. Yeah, so I don't know what that means the show can be from here forward. Other than it does need to be there, it needs to appeal to a certain niche of folks, I think, but I don't know what that is at the moment.
But do you think you would have gotten the job at GitLab if you hadn't kind of done those side paths, or I don't know? You said you haven't kind of achieved the goal that you set forth, but by going towards that goal, do you think the GitLab opportunity came as a result of that, or do you think you would have gotten the GitLab opportunity if you had just kept kind of working a salary job until now?
No. I mean, the GitLab job 100% came about because I was doing jobs to be done consulting. And like that's how the initial intro happened years ago. And we've stayed in touch, and I've stayed on his radar because I share stuff on LinkedIn all the time.
So then maybe your goal has changed.
Yeah, I think that's the conclusion there. But one follow-up question about that. Was that contract related to your jobs to be done consulting, or did it even like I remember you were in touch with GitLab because of your remote work doesn't have to be lonely tool.
Yep.
Was that so I guess kind of like all of the story so far helped with that job in a way. Yeah. I mean this particular one specifically is because they're chief of product, and I met years ago because I was presenting at a conference, and I was presenting at a conference to try to find clients, and they were never a client. He was impressed. We stayed in touch for years. That is specifically how like this referral and this opportunity, came about. And it just so happened that I was able to drop, some other like, things about, I'm a perfect cultural fit as well. I've been working on this thing. I published this, blah, blah, blah. Those things all supported the story for sure. But I think what I mean, more broadly is I did not set about on this 119 episodes ago to eventually land a full-time job that's a really great fit for my situation. That's where I have arrived at currently, and it feels like, oh yes, this feels like a giant relief. I don't know exactly what that means, overall, other than to have set out to try to accomplish something, not get there, arrive at least not the end, but at least, at a late stage of trying to accomplish that and feel relieved. I don't know what that means.
I feel like it means that you're winning at life.
That's probably true. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you set out to reach a goal, and then somewhere in the middle of the journey, you realize, hey, that's actually not where I want to go, or the path towards that goal doesn't look nice. I go somewhere else. So
yeah.
And I feel like the thing that came up in my mind is like, as a software developer, we're always preaching like, you have to be agile and adapt to change and stuff like. And I mean, that's exactly this. I mean, it would have been crazy 120 episodes ago to set out and be like, hey, in 2.5, 3 years, I want to have a full-time job at this particular company doing this particular task. I mean, that's just, it just doesn't happen. And I feel like it's just natural to to have to change your mind and suddenly realize, or eventually realize, that you're happy doing something else. And I mean, I can only talk about me and my goals 120 episodes ago. Not entirely sure I arrived at any of those either. So maybe I did, but like the goalposts keep moving in a way, and suddenly you realize, now I'm here, but it's still not what I'm looking for. It's not quite what I imagined it to be. Which reminds me of my vacation a couple of weeks ago when we were hiking. We were hiking up a hill or a mountain, and it was a small path that was winding, and you'd always be like, that over there, that looks like that's the ridge. And once we get there, that's a good time to take a break and then turn around and go back down. And unfortunately, a couple of times we arrived to that ridge only to realize, it's not a ridge. The ridge is actually way more to the top, and then we're like, okay, we still have some energy left, so maybe we'll go there. That has to be the ridge for sure. And surprise, it wasn't. So I feel like,
but did you enjoy the trip?
Absolutely. I mean, it was amazing, and we enjoyed it quite a bit. And eventually, we decided, okay, we'll never make it to the ridge. Let's just turn around and go back home. And it was still a nice hike and a nice experience. So, I don't.
Well.
You need an emotional speaker. Benedict can do that for you.
Nah, I'm not sure.
With his own photographies from the trip or the walk on big slides.
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay, well that's it from me. I'll hopefully have some, or I will have some news next week on a couple of different fronts, and we can chat some more then. But Benedicto, what's happening in your world?
That would be me.
Yep.
I heard a little E at the end. Life update, I guess, since that's part of my slow and steady journey. I now have an yoga accountability partner on Twitter, which is super awesome.
Awesome.
I think she's an ex-Gatsby employee, actually. Now she works at Cockroach Labs. It's like a new database service. I don't know. Anyway, she was like, I need an accountability partner. So we've been like messaging each other like, hey, I did my yoga. Have you done your yoga? And it actually really helped one day, because I was like, I'm not doing it. But then she was like, you can do it. And then I did it. And now I feel much better after doing yoga like 4 days in a row again. So that is so much fun. And Twitter is just so much fun these days. Like things like that makes it, like actual humans, not just like the blob that is Twitter. And I have to figure out a way to unfollow people, because I've followed so many people over the years. I'm not allowed to follow any more people. And I haven't found a tool for that, because I just want to go through like anyone who hasn't tweeted in like a year, or anyone who I followed like 10 years. I've been on the platform 14 years. So I just I need to like weed out a lot of people, and I'm not going to do that manually. So since I am now working with like maybe eventually creating a SaaS starter, I might like create a mini SaaS with Gatsby so that I can like practice making SaaSes. We'll see. I'm not gonna get ahead of myself on this one, but so if I don't follow you back, dear listener, if you start following me, I do like you.
It's
I'm just
not
not allowed.
personal.
I'm not allowed to
Right.
follow anymore. So so that is interesting. So that's I follow 5,000 people. Like who even
Oh, that's
are
a
they?
bunch.
Yeah. I've been uncritically following folks for 14 years. So that has resulted in a lot of followers, not followers, but follows, because not that many people follow me.
Have you considered just starting from scratch?
I have
Like instead of going through and like unfollowing people that are not a good fit, have you considered just unfollowing everyone and then adding them back in as you see fit?
that would still be 5,000 clicks because Twitter does not have unfollow everyone that I have found.
Can you
So I
unfollow
can make it
through the
little-
API?
Yeah, so that's since I would have to like wouldn't have to, but since I probably will go that route anyway, I could just sort people and then say everyone who hasn't tweeted for a year and then just unfollow all of those instead of everyone.
Yeah.
Or unfollow everyone
Yeah.
and start from
I don't know. That
did
feels.
this-
I don't know. That feels. I don't know. It feels so. All these people I'll unfollow. It feels. I don't know. It feels like throwing them out of my party or something. Going back to that party metaphor that you had, right? It feels like
Yeah.
I've invited all of these people home, and now I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm not gonna figure out who I like. I'll just throw everyone out. Which is probably okay.
So just to
Yeah.
offer like another side of this, I did think maybe 6-8 months ago, I unfollowed everybody, 0 followers, and very slowly added like, oh hey, yeah, I haven't heard from. I noticed that I am kind of looking for their update, and so added them, and then got it back up. I think got back to 80 or so followers. And then unfollowed, down to 40. And I think I'm currently at 0 followers just so that Twitter is boring to me and I'm not tempted to log in. I'm trying to be on a diet from all social media at the moment. But just to say it, I think Benedict's got a good idea that it's a pretty good strategy to just wipe it completely clean. You're not being rude. You're not literally kicking anybody out, and you will notice.
I'm like wriggling in my chair. It just feels wrong, but you're probably
Well,
right. It just feels wrong.
It's not
you-
personal, and then you'll notice who do you miss. Add those, and like give yourself a 100 follow limit or something, reasonable.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure because I've never done that, but if I remember correctly, you can put people on lists
Yeah.
and then just follow the list, which will not count them as a person you follow directly. So I mean, instead of unfollowing everyone, you can just move everyone to a list if that's possible. I'm not sure what the maximum size of a list is, and then you can pick them off one by one into your follower list.
Your heavy rotation list.
I actually now have a list that's called Follow When Allowed.
Oh my gosh. That's okay.
Honestly, I have a legit I have a question. Like on your Twitter usage, do you actually read your timeline or
I
do you
scrolled
just
through
read your
my
notifications or how does it work?
I scrolled through my timeline probably like a little bit more than I should, but I feel like I get a lot out of it. Like a lot of the things that I've picked up over the years have been from kind of just scrolling through it fairly quickly, but just like noticing trends and what are people talking about and what technologies are they talking about and stuff like that. Since I'm on that the one that kind of Twitter makes for you. So I also get like adjacent tweets, I guess, that comes up. And then I've muted some stuff that I don't want to see again and again because I want it to be more like tech discussions and like discovering tech stuff. Like I want to have tech conversations on there and yoga. But so yeah, I use it like a fair amount, and also I use it because I need that accountability. So I use it to like throw out like what I'm gonna do like tech wise. So I use it more. Yeah, I don't have like a very good strategy for like getting more followers, and that's not really that important to me. It's more those connections like now with Michelle on the yoga, like that makes me happy. And I also have some people that I can talk Gatsby with on there and like have, Gatsby discussions and stuff like that. So I really enjoy Twitter in that way. And I managed to get my feed to be very pleasant, actually. I've muted AAR and MMR, I guess, as words. And also, yeah, some other stuff so that and I I mute a lot of folks that talk about tech, but in that, that I hate framework X. You should never use X. Use Y. Yeah. Kind of like they call them grifters. I don't even know what that means, but like the grifter tweeters or something. Like there's a word for it. So I tried to just mute those. So my feed feels really good. I just think that I have a lot of people that are not tweeting that I'm following. So I don't really want to unfollow everybody because I do enjoy my feed, but I want to kind of remove everyone that isn't contributing that feed but are contributing to my, maxed out limit, and then keep everyone that are talking on my feed, I guess. But I could move people over to the list, but yeah.
It sounds like you don't actually have a problem.
Well, I can't follow anymore because I want to follow more Gatsby people now that I'm like trying to get like really into the Gatsby community. So I could put those on the list, but also I feel like for a lot of those like Gatsby people I want to follow, they have very few followers because they're like people looking for Gatsby resources. And I think for them, it's like really nice if they get a follow and not just be put on a list. So I'd want to give like a follow to people with few followers instead of, I don't know. I'm complicating this.
Is there, and I apologize because I didn't think there was. It's the personal limit of followers, of following, not like you've reached some. Yeah. So
no,
if you're following them and they're not tweeting, it might as well just not even exist. Like you literally don't have to worry about it.
No, because I'm not allowed to follow any more people before I have more followers. Like if I click follow on a person, Twitter says you are not allowed to follow any more people.
Okay, so there is a limit. Okay, okay, got it.
And I think it's based on so I have 2,500 followers and I follow 5,000 people, and then I'm not allowed to follow more than like double my own following or follow. Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, cool.
So anyway, that was a tangent, but I enjoy Twitter.
That makes sense.
But I am enjoying Twitter is what's kind of the point, but I feel bad about not following some people, and I need to just like get on that, like cleaning, do a little spring cleaning in the winter. But back to the updates. I had a streaming show that I talked about last week with Miriam, who's creating a web app for her Conference Buddy initiative. And I think that went really well. She's very excited about like having an accountability buddy in us also. So she kind of got homework to do for this week's stream. And I promised her like little sticker stars if she does her assignments. But this week we'll have Twitter friend Swiss Teller or Swissek on Twitter. So he will come on and we'll discuss authentication services and what to think about when choosing an authentication service. And we will also have database needs. So we'll have a little bit of a chat on what to look for and, pricing models and open source versus non-open source, and try to like figure out what service should she decide on, because she's not going to build this. She's not going to build a backend and host it herself for this type of a project. So I think that's going to be a really interesting discussion we'll have on Thursday. And then the week after, I have forced Benedict on to talk us through data modeling because will overthink that, and we'll need somebody with experience to be like, you don't have to think about that right now, but you have to think about this one thing. Or, just give us a little bit of his experience
Who knows?
in working with databases. I mean, I know like how to save stuff to a database, but I've never like worked on a database that's going to be used by more than like a few people. So a shared database that's going to be used by more than a few people. So, and I think that's going to be an interesting chat as well, because Benedict, you can be like, well, we saw issues at X amount of users, so maybe you don't have to think about that ever. And I think people are interested in those kinds of topics because it's a lot of people trip up, like they overthink and overcomplicate, so they never get like off the ground with their project. So I think this series can be very interesting for the folks that end up following along. It's going to be 5 or 6 episodes, I think. And then I said I was trusting, I guess, in my feeling. I feel like things are like moving along slow and steady in the right direction. I just kind of like have to trust the process. I've done some automation so that now I can write all my emails in Markdown, and then they get published to my site, and then they are turned into emails via RSS into ConvertKit. And that makes it a lot more enjoyable, especially to write like emails with, because I want code snippets. I want to like teach people stuff about Gatsby and like show them in code what they're supposed to do, and having to do that like inside of ConvertKit or in like that is not so enjoyable. And then I also hope, I call them emails on my website, but I hope that they could like pick up maybe some kind of SEO. I can see what people are interested in, what they're searching for, even though these are very much like personal, like talking to one person, like they're written as emails, but they could still maybe be beneficial to people who happen upon them. And then while I was working on my next talk, which is going to be on encryption and privacy, I decided I'm going to do some live coding because that's what I do now. And I remembered way back when that I made a little demo where you can write notes in your browser and then they are encrypted and saved to a GitHub repository. So it could be a public GitHub repository because they're encrypted with your encryption key. And I found it. I'm really happy about that. And the commit is from July 2019. But I found it and I upgraded all the dependencies and it still works. So that made me, and it's made in Gatsby, of course. So as we were saying about like slow and steady, like maybe this is, now I'm looking back to be like, yes, I have actually been like slowly and steadily building up to this Gatsby authority work that I'm doing. So while I was done kind of making it work, I was like, oh, I need a really cool like emoji, like fav icon, because I'm not going to style the app at all, because then I know I'm going to spend like 40 hours or 50 hours just on that. So you know the feeling, right? So but I was like, oh, this could be a plugin. So in 2 hours, I created an emoji fav icon plugin for Gatsby. So that feeds into my kind of strategy of making many little plugins. It was so much fun. And those 2 hours even included not like getting the release automation to work because I had the wrong key, blah, blah, blah. So I'm really happy with like those 2 hours because now I have my plugin starters. Like I could take that tiny ID from ID to an actual release in 2 hours, which feels very encouraging for me, because that makes it something I can actually do quite a few of and use as kind of, instead of just blog content or like written content or video content, I can actually kind of have code as content, I guess.
Yep.
Is that a new term? Code as content? Did I just coin that?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Who's to say?
Probably.
Just to say. Yeah, so that was really cool. I'm enjoying all these automations. It just makes, now that I know what I'm going to do for like a longer time, it's so much easier to like set up the automations and make the processes work in my favor.
Yeah.
And then trust that I see little indications of people making issues on my plugins and like engaging both on Twitter and on GitHub. So I see like I have a strong feeling this is going to work. I just need to like keep up with the process.
Totally.
And then my first non-hourly gig came through, so I'm gonna create a React demonstration for a service called Outseta, which has like embedded signups and login and profile and different stuff. But we'll obviously explore Gatsby as well. So Ula, my junior dev and partner, he's doing some exploratory work on getting it set up with Gatsby so that when I sit down and do the React demo, like he has tested out and done a lot of kind of the preliminary work. So it will be hopefully a quite quick turnaround for me doing the delivery.
That's awesome. Congrats
Nice,
on
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So trusting,
cool.
I'm like, this is
Well,
slow.
It's working.
trusting for
Steady.
good reason. Yeah, it's working. Like you really do start to see like your buildup of momentum.
Yeah, and as we talked about, like POW, which is my SaaS that I haven't spent so much time on. Now that I have this system set up, I see that I can do more work on POW because I can then quickly take plugin or create, if I do something for POW, I could create a plugin for it and release it into kind of this system. Or if I learn something new while working on POW, I could create emails around Gatsby kind of on from POW. So it just makes it more kind of cohesive in a way now that I have this kind of engine going. But before I didn't have anywhere to like output that the technical knowledge that I'm getting from POW. But now I do, which gives it like it gives it a different dimension, I guess, which I hope is going to work out. And I was very inspired by expert interview that Monica Lent did inside of her blogging for dev community with the creator behind Go Rails. I don't know if you've had a look at that. And he kind of did similar stuff where he uses his products. So when he comes across something in a product, there's like, oh, that was a clever way of doing it. He just records a screencast right away with that knowledge. And then he keeps working on the product and then he edits the screencast later. But he does it when it's like fresh on his mind. And then he has the screencast for the week as kind of, I think Jonathan Starr calls it sawdust, like it's cast off of work that you are doing anyway. And when you got those kinds of engines set up, it looks like you're doing a lot more, but you're not. Like, it looks like you're doing maybe 5 times as much kind of work, but it doesn't take 5 times as much energy or time to do it because it all kind of feeds each other. So, yeah, that's my update. I didn't leave any breathing space for you to ask questions.
All good
Boom,
stuff.
boom, boom.
Yeah. I like the sawdust thing, and I feel like I'm struggling with that in particular. Like, yeah, like I feel like I come across interesting stuff all the time in my work, but usually I feel like I'm too busy to even stop and record a screencast, even if I'm not publishing it. So that's a good idea.
I think most people are familiar, but just to be explicit about it, the sawdust metaphor is, lumber companies who are cutting, planks of wood. They're throwing sawdust everywhere. So rather than just like letting it fall on the floor, sweeping it away and putting it in the trash, they collect it and then can sell it to, other industries like quick start firewood or, et cetera, people who want sawdust. And so you package and sell the potential waste of your primary function.
And in our industries, it can often be not sold, but used as marketing material, I guess.
So, yeah.
It can often be
exactly.
sold as well, but like often it can be used
package whatever it
packaged
is you're
in some way.
casting off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so clever.
Yeah, I
Benedict,
really
what's
enjoyed
happening
that
with you?
video. I can really recommend. I think it's only available inside of that community, but it was a really interesting discussion because he had just started doing like one thing after the other, and then he kept like feeding back and forth between them, and it's only been him up until now, I don't know what
It's impressive.
his like
Impressive. Yeah,
I can't remember, but his MMR is high. Yeah. And he actually talked about getting a lot of his business skills, or not business skills, but like how he thought about these things from his parents who were woodworkers, which is interesting that I brought up the sawdust metaphor. And he was like dragged around to all these like woodworking shows where they would look at materials and like talk and probably like haggle over prices. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what he said, but like he didn't like it as a child, but like now he realized he learned a lot from observing all of these booths and the industry from within.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's not publicly available. It's not something we can link to in the show notes.
You can link to the community. It's blogging for devs is the community.
Okay. All right. Well.
So Benedict.
Yeah.
Are you going to do something with your sawdust?
Well, I am not entirely sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not even sure what the sawdust of the last week or so would look like. We're still very much in the hiring process. And I had to learn a tough lesson last week that saying no isn't that much fun. When you had like nice interviews with people who weren't bad people or like unskilled or anything, but just maybe not a good fit for this particular project. And then you have to tell them, unfortunately, this will not work out, and try to be nice about it. But in the end, they're still saying no, and that's kind of
disappointing.
It's not a fun feeling. But ultimately, I told myself that saying no now is probably better than firing them 3 months in. So
yep.
I told myself that to make it feel a little bit better. But yeah, we're still in the process of finding someone. Initially, we just did a batch of interviews with like 3 people, and it didn't work out with all of them for different reasons. And now I'm interviewing a lot more. Like invited a lot of more people to do calls with me, and then if the interview goes well, have them for the test project. And I feel like I'm doing nothing else but sitting on interview calls this week. And so far the results have been varied. We had some really good interviews, but earlier today I had an interview that was I'm not entirely sure what I was witnessing there. It just didn't work out at all. So it wasn't easy. It was easier to say no to this one, but still, it's a trip. It's a new world for me. I feel like I'm learning with every interview, not just about the people, but like how to screw up interview questions and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean,
but people say it's the hardest thing to do. It's like absolutely one of the hardest things to do in a business.
That might be true. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I feel like we're still just scratching the surface. I feel like the hiring part is probably still the easiest one. That then making it work in the long term is probably even harder. And that's why I feel like. That's maybe why I'm a little bit picky. I'm not entirely sure. Mm-hmm. Like, as I said, like some of the applicants are really looking good, and then maybe the test assignment wasn't quite right, but they're nice people and they communicate well. But you still like, I don't know, like if they screw up this part in the test assignment, was that just a fluke, or is this like a sign that you can't quite trust their judgment? And I don't know. It's just super hard to figure out who to hire. So yeah, that's what's mostly occupying my time this week. And other than that, I just did a little bit of the usual stuff, like shipping a small feature last week in between all of the stuff that was happening. It's now finally possible to filter by form submissions. It's like one of the features that I decided to launch without. And it was the first thing people requested, like literally an hour after launching.
Well,
so the form submissions look nice, but like, how do I see who submitted what form? And they're like, yeah, you don't. But I was able to ship that last week, and also came across a really stupid mistake in how we delete campaigns in user list. I don't know. Probably shouldn't go into the details there, but you can screw up the easiest tasks. Let's put it that way.
Okay. You discovered it and fixed it, or you've discovered it and you got to find time to figure out how to.
The nice things about stupid bugs like this one is that usually the fix is pretty straightforward.
Pretty easy. Yeah.
So yeah, they never go away. There's always stupid stuff you can do, and you only realize that this is actually the wrong way to do it when someone tries to delete a campaign with 10,000 of users who run it in the past and stuff like that. So yeah. Anyways, that's basically it. Yeah.
Here's some sawdust for you. It's like you could have a download or an email course series. I don't know, on like real world lessons or like real world bugs that I've experienced or something like that. Where it's one, it would make other people feel not less stupid, but like it will, everybody does some of the same mistakes, or everybody will make bugs and mistakes. But if you have some that you realized after a while and you could kind of list them off, then other people wouldn't like end up doing that mistake because they were like, oh yeah, that's, number 2 on Benedict's list. Like, I'm not going to make that mistake. I don't know. Isn't it Postgres? Like, top silly Postgres mistakes or something like that.
Yeah, maybe.
Or top 5
sure.
performance increases we've done or something like that. Like things, it could be in blog posts, top 5 performance problems and solutions we've had while scaling user list. See, there's your title.
I like it. Yeah.
I think there's that's a really, I like that idea. What I'm sitting here trying to think through is like, there's a like, what's the distinction between packaging your sawdust and content strategy? Because I was thinking, the sawdust for user list, you guys kind of already do it in a sense where you present, you give these templates for user onboarding emails, or and like if there's some sort of way to, without breaking any sort of privacy policy or whatever, but to see which sorts of systems work best amongst your user base, and then share those observations. Is that packaging sawdust, or is that just content strategy?
I think those two can be very similar, because your sawdust will often be content, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, anyway, that's just a kind of a side thought. Like,
I remember back
user
in the
list
day,
knows that most people don't.
Yeah, because back in the day, I think when I was in university, I had some friends who were very heavily onto. Was it OkCupid? It was like an international dating site, and they had the best blog because they did that. They had
the most amazing data visualizations of anybody around.
Yeah, it's like people who like this weird thing usually end up on dates with people who like this weird thing. And it was funny. And then people found out about, that's how I found out about OkCupid. I never signed up though, but that's how I found out about them. So if I would have needed them, I would have known of them.
Yeah,
that was the only dating site I knew of before it became mainstream.
Exactly.
So yeah, something like that. But that would be more on Jane's side, I guess, maybe. Like you would have to do the queries to like get that data out, but then she would have to like write about it. So it's not your sawdust; it's more the product sawdust. Maybe I don't know.
And to be like, let's be real here. This is not really sawdust. This is like
this is just having fun.
Big chunks of wood. No, it's just like surfacing those insights. That's that's nothing that just happens by accident. Like you have to really dig into the data.
That's yeah.
And yes, I can do a Twitter thread on the stupid things I fixed in user list in the last 7 days or something like that. Yeah, that would probably be interesting and funny, but I'm not sure. But like, I feel like a lot of this stuff is so specific to the, like, I feel like a lot of the stuff has too much, it needs too much context to actually explain what's going on. Mm-hmm. Because like to explain why deleting campaigns was bad and the implementation didn't quite work, I basically have to explain how all of this just works on the inside, and that is a lot of setup, mental setup that people need to do to understand what's going on.
And also, you are selling a SaaS. You're not selling consultant or training or that kind of stuff that I am working on or the Go Rails guys did. And then you kind of need those systems in place. But when you have a SaaS, you have marketing people, then it would be more to build your authority as a developer if you at any point would like to kind of leave and become just like a silent founder or owner, whatever it's called. Like if you wanted to go out and like do another startup as the technical founder or get a salary job like Brian, then that could build up your authority as, a good developer with heavy scaling experience. But then but you have to have some kind of goal, even though the goal might change like we talked about today, but like there needs to be like somewhere you're trying to get to figure out what kind of sawdust to focus on, I guess.
Yeah, but that raises a good point. I mean, you're probably right. Like whatever, like my sawdust probably is only valuable to me and my personal brand, and it's not really applicable to user list in the sense of like getting new customers. But one thing I'm questioning or wondering about in the hiring process is if we should have done a better job of just being involved in the communities of the tools we're using, just for a hiring purpose. And I mean, it's kind of like a running joke at conferences these days that you end your talk with, "Hey, and by the way, we are hiring." But let's be honest, like we all follow like content by companies, and they might be doing whatever. Like I don't know, you follow the Shopify blog or whatever, or some other startup that does something interesting. Not really, you're probably not a customer, but you like their blog posts about technical challenges they're doing or their new JavaScript framework ideas or whatever. And I feel like that content makes it a lot easier to attract talent and applications. Because honestly, for us right now, it feels like challenging getting in front of the right people. We get a decent amount of applications, but they're rarely like a perfect fit or a very good fit from the exceptional good fit from the start. And sure, some people can be trained and stuff like that, but up until last week, I think we only got one application from an Ember.js developer out of the community. And things only started improving after I got onto this the Ember.js Discord, and they have a hiring channel in there, and there was already a post there auto-generated by one of the Ember job boards. And once I started replying to that, telling people, "Hey, this position is still open. If you have questions, reach out to me." Then suddenly there was a lot more interaction because we were not a nameless, faceless
just a
corporation anymore.
Yeah.
But it's not good
and that got me thinking.
Because you are the only developer, so far, and so people will have to like you to want the job. Or they would need to like and respect, like enough to work, like and respect your work, or you not even your work, but like you as a person, because that the other technical person you're going to be working very closely. So it makes sense that if you had more of, let's say, a personal brand, like you said, it would be more of a personal brand as a developer, that would turn into employee branding or whatever they call it, like the word for attracting talent, because then people, as you said, would have known of you and the technologies that you are using and be like, yeah, like I really, and like I've liked some of the posts that you've made on the user list blog about like you did something on Markdown for your marketing pages. I've read that long before I ever met you. I haven't met you, but met you on here on the internet.
Yeah.
And those kind of just like from 2 blog posts, I was like, well, I like his approach. Like this is a person that I can see that I on the same page as me when thinking about technology. So I think definitely, even though it won't sell user list subscriptions, like a blog post about some weird technical challenge won't sell user list subscriptions maybe, but you're right, and it would probably help you attract the right people. I was just agreeing with you. I just had to say something, I guess.
That's usually how I do it as well. Like when you tell something, I'm usually, yeah, you're absolutely right. This is a good idea because what you just said, right?
Yes.
So that's how podcasting goes. Anyways,
but it's not too late because you're going to be hiring more people. So get on that.
Yeah, we should.
And get the new person.
I just have to figure out what to do. Yeah, absolutely. Also, doing just more open source would be helpful, but there's so little time and so much to do. Anyways, I think that's it from me for this week.
Good one.
Yeah, a good one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we'll see y'all next week
for the goodbye party.
Let's talk again. Yeah, let's do a nice goodbye party.
So long for now. So long for now. All right.
Cool.
Good catching up.
Yep.
See y'all later.
See you soon.